Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's collaborative program between the Israel Bonds Medical Division and Barzilai Medical Center in Israel. We're so glad you could join us. My name is Dr. Steve Warren, an orthopedic surgeon from St. Petersburg, Florida, and Israel Bonds National Medical Division co-chair. It is my honor to serve in this role alongside my co-chair, Dr. Ziv Shulkin from Dallas. As many of us have been following closely, a number of Israeli hostages have been released as part of the first phase of the current ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. The challenges that Israel has faced during the past year have been enormous, compounded by the pain of knowing that so many Israeli men, women, and children have been suffering Hamas captivity. We all know how important our support for Israel has been during the past 16 months, and many have been working tirelessly to raise awareness about the plight of the hostages. As some of these people return to Israel and their families get them back from the unimaginable conditions they've been held in, their path to medical recovery can be delicate and challenging. Many have returned in a state of severe malnutrition with heart problems, complicated infections, psychological trauma, and many other difficulties requiring immediate and comprehensive medical care. Barzilai Medical Center, located in the southern Israeli city of Ashkelon, is one of several Israeli hospitals that have been selected as a potential receiving hospital for released hostages. And we are fortunate to have their medical director, Professor Chezy Levy, with us today to speak. Before we hear from Professor Levy, I would like to begin by introducing Israel Bonds President and CEO, Dani Naveh. Dani joined Bonds in December of 2021 after an extensive career in the government, business, and financial sectors in Israel. In addition to being a former member of the Knesset, Dani served as Israel's Minister of Health, as well as chairman of Kalal Insurance and Finance. He is also the founder of a venture capital group, which established funds specializing in the fields of medtech and healthcare. Since the attacks of October 7, 2023, Dani has led Israel Bonds in securing nearly $4.5 billion, that's with a B, in global sales. Please welcome Dani Naveh.
Thank you so much, and I would like to thank you, Dr. Warren and Dr. Shulkin, for serving as Israel Bonds Medical Division co-chairs. Thank you for everything you do. And it's first of all, a special pleasure for me to be here today with our chairman of the board, Dr. Andrew Haller, my dear friend. He's Israel Bonds chairman of the board of our US operation and also of our international operation. Thank you, Andy, for everything that you have been doing for the state of Israel and Israel Bonds. And it's a special honor to have the opportunity to meet today Professor Chezy Levy. I met Professor Levy for the first time. You mentioned my bio, Stephen. I met Professor Levy for the first time during those years that I was a Minister of Health. And at that time, Professor Levy served as the Chief Medical Officer of the IDF. And since then, Professor Levy has served in key positions in Israel's healthcare system. And I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank Professor Levy for everything that he has been doing for Israel's healthcare system and for so many years. And especially, I would like to say that Barzilai Medical Center has been in the front line facing the terrorist attack from Gaza for so many years. Yet, October 7th has made Barzilai's mission more important, more urgent, more vital than ever before. And I can tell you that the same is for Israel Bonds. You know, for many years, for 7 decades, Israel Bonds' mission has been to support the Israeli economy. We have raised during the years more than $53 billion, ushering Israel into a vibrant startup nation. Yet for us as well, Since October 7th, 23, our mission has felt more vital and more urgent like never before. And we also have received support of investments in Israel bonds like never before. And as you have mentioned, Dr. Warren, globally speaking, and I would like to take this opportunity again to thank our chairman of the board for partnering on this achievement. We have received more than $4 billion globally for Israel. And this is really a record-breaking number, more than 2 times our average annual sales before October 7th. And each and every one of you, Israel bonds investors, here on this meeting, can take pride in knowing that you play an important role in achieving this and in supporting Israel at this important time of need. But it's not over, as we all know. We still have a lot of things to do. And we have started recently a special campaign to support Israel and to build, we call it Building Tomorrow's Together. And I'm confident that together we can make Israel even more secure and more prosperous like never before. I look forward to listening to our guest speaker, Professor Levy, and thank you for making the time to participate in this meeting today.
Thank you so much, Donnie. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Barzilai Medical Center's CEO and Medical Director, Professor Chezy Levy. Professor Levy, in addition to being a physician and the head of Barzilai, is a retired IDF Brigadier General. In the First Lebanon War, Professor Levy was a Nahal Infantry Brigade physician. He served as the medical commander of the Northern Command during the Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. In the Second Lebanon War, Professor Levy served as Chief Medical Officer of the IDF. In 2011, he joined Barzilai Medical Center as medical director, from which he took leave in 2020 to serve as Director General of Israel's Health Ministry during Israel's national COVID pandemic response, returning to continue leading the hospital in 2021. Professor Levy, thank you so much for joining us today. Actually, it's this evening over there, and it's with great pleasure that I now turn the program over to you.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for the honor to be with you. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Stephen. Thank to Vida, which is coordinated this meeting. And it's really a great honor for me to speak a little about our hospital. And then most of the meeting will be dedicated to the return of the hostages, of the kidnapped people of Israel, and all the organizational and medical problems which have to be solved while receiving them back to Israel. So little attention, and I'll show a little movie video about our hospital regarding October the 7th and what is Barzilai Hospital, and then we'll go directly to the returning of the hostages. And I'm going to share now, Ofer, I'm going to share now the presentation and start with a very short video. עוד תחבר אותי?
נשאר סקרין, כמו שקרה קודם.
אני לא מוצא
למעלה.
את זה, איפה זה?
כן.
אוקיי. '61. This is the part of South Ashkelon. This is a very strategic industrial area with all the with petrol tanks, the salination factories, electricity, all the thing, and this is Gaza. Only about 8 to 10 miles from our hospital. That's why we are in address to bombing for about 17 years. And we are very, we're preparing ourselves to transform our activity at few minutes from regular time to an emergency time, and we drill and train all over the years. Let's see a little video now which will show October the 7th, and some things about our hospital, which is not only an emergent hospital, but also a 650 beds hospital that just give the population of 500,000 citizens all the services, medical services that they need 24/7 here. So let's say this movie, it's in Hebrew, so I'll pause some places and give you an explanation. למה זה לא עובד? מה קורה? אני במצב של הצגה?
לא, אתה כן.
אבל מקודם.
הוא בתוך המצגת?
כן. אני מגביר ככה. I'll do it this way because there is, of course, when Oedipus comes, no Oedipus, Murphy, when Murphy comes, there is a problem. So I'll do it this way. It's going to be shorter. This is our hospital. This is the Nova party, which part of the people were evacuated to our hospital. This is the emergency room. We've got about 370 casualties in one day. It's a huge, huge, huge multiple casualty scenario. This is one place that was hit directly in the first night and hit the unprotected emergency operation room, which was our operation room in protected edge in 2014, and also the gynecology department, which was empty because we transformed all the patients to underground 280 beds hospital that we've built along the past year. This is the place of treating children, undeveloped children, which was also hit on Wednesday, first week. It was luck that there were not children there because we stopped its activity. Otherwise, it could be a massacre. This is the place. This is cadavers that are brought to the hospital on the first day at night, and in place of 10 cadavers, dead people on regular time, there were 100 cadavers that was accumulated there, brought by people that could enter the arenas of battle and bringing them with all the things that we've seen there. This is after cleaning them and putting them in nylon bags, but we've seen all the horrible things that we speak about, and this is when we're loading them on a refrigerating trucks in order to evacuate them to the place of treating them. This is a lot of visits. This is the operating room that we order, and this is our spokeswoman that speaks about the emergency room and about the trauma room, which was loaded by people every minute, a lot of ambulances. A lady that lost her husband in Netiva Asara, which is just on the border. She lost her husband, which was assassinated by terrorists near the home when the sons have seen it. Then her son was killed when he was surfing on Zikim Beach. So she lost her son and her husband, and her little son was hit by the terrorist, losing his eyes. they were treated, and we were all emotionally moved treating her. These are the chief trauma nurse who is speaking about what happened. You see, this man treated the cadavers, and he tells about a stretcher with two young children which was burned together, and he is still treated now by psychiatric and psychologists and have a PTSD, and he is not the only one from the crew of the hospital which were crying and treating people. This is the emergency room. She is the head of the emergency room, which tells us that she didn't know this day whether she is a physician, she is a mother, she is a woman, and she didn't know. I'm running to identify me, telling about what happened this day, and one anecdote of a lady soldier which was evacuated because of shrapnel directly in her face. We declared her dead. She was beautiful, she was young, like didn't even have enough time to live. And then a telephone in her hand rang, and we saw in the telephone it was her mother. And we stood there crying. And I would say it's not a shame to cry. This is secondary evacuation to other hospital by helicopters. This is the room. Little about the hospital, very technological hospital, new center for women health, which deals mainly with all the breast cancer under one roof, surgeon, mammography, ultrasound, biopsies, a new place for ladies. This is building of a new protected neonate department, which is not protected yet, and it's a problem, and we are going to open it. This is opening of intensive cardiac care unit, which we opened in the wall, very new one, and cardiology department. And this is a gastroenterology institute. I will not show you all the things, but as you see, we are just making a new technological hospital. This is a biplane angio, which is one of very few in Israel, and it is good for brain catheterization that we are doing here. This is a rehabilitation center. This is hydrotherapy, as you've seen, a very technological surgery and orthopedic with Da Vinci robots operations, and very new operations for the spine. This lady underwent an operation, and one day later, she stand here and speak, and it is very new methods. This is jaw and face operations with very big oncology tumors and replacing all the face. This is a declaration of the Minister of Health, Mr. Bosso, Rabbi Bosso, which declares that Hospital Barzilai is going to be a super level 1 trauma center. So let's go over. I'll finish with this. This is a lady soldier, woman soldier, which was hit in her head in a base called Zikin near Barzilai. She was almost dead with a brain damage. We stabilized her, treated her, make resuscitation, and evacuated her, secondary evacuation, to a brain surgery, which we still don't have. She is alive, she speaks, and this is Barzilai. So just to start to see this, a soldier which was evacuated, almost dead, and after a few weeks, he is leaving hospital to a rehabilitation. And this is the time that we say also, thank you, God, that made us physician and having the ability to rescue and save life of soldiers. And let's go on. Now we are going to the hostages. I prefer to start with very awful pictures. I guess that part of you saw it. It is 1 week ago, Saturday, releasing 3 hostages, kidnapped hostages, and making this ceremony, satanic devil ceremony with the Hamas. And I wanted to show you one of the main things that influenced them is the time that passed since their capture. It was almost 500 days and starvation. When you see it, you cannot forget the Holocaust. So this man is Eli Sharabi, and this is Ohad Ben Ami, and this is Sagi. Now, see him before he have been taken to Gaza. This is now 1 week ago. This is Sagi, and we see him then and now. And this is Sharabi. Look at him here. See it him now. This Sharabi has been lost. His wife and 2 daughters, they were killed. He didn't know it till last Saturday. Just measure and imagine how to tell him. And it's one of the things that I'm going to speak about in the problem of kidnaps who are coming back. And his brother was also kidnapped with him and was assassinated in Gaza. He is dead and he is not here yet. And see them, how they're broken. And I just wanted to speak about, Holocaust and returnees now, 1 week ago. A nation that does not learn from its past, its future is in danger and uncertainty. And we have to live here in Israel and to make Israel live because of our past. Let's start. The events of massacre and kidnapping are unprecedented in modern history. There's not enough history of what happened and how to deal with it. We speak about 73 war and hostages in Egypt and Syria, which were starved, but they were young, most of them, and they were for a short time, not 500 days. We know a little from the Holocaust what happens in starvation and, of course, mental disorders. So there is not enough knowledge. After humiliating ceremony, they were transferred to the Red Cross, and from there to the IDF forces, all in the area of Gaza. Now I'm speaking about how we organized taking them back, and then I'll go to medical problems. So initial examination by Israeli doctors and transfer were first of all, when they transferred from the Red Cross to the Israeli forces in Gaza, and then taking them to a camp which called Re'im, near the fence, where they started to meet the very first intimate circle of the families and being checked, examined by Israeli physician and psychologist. So this is, you see, the Red Cross, which is encircled by a lot of what is like called people. I'm not sure about them, but this is how they are transferred via the Red Cross. And you see it here. There were some occasions that the people just climbed on the cars started to kick and tried to kick the hostages, but we could take them all, transfer them to Israeli forces, and then to Re'im Center. In Re'im, first examination by doctors and psychologists, an initial meeting with the family in initial and intimate proximity. They were bathed, changed clothes, having empathy, emotion, hugging, crying, and preparing to be flown to the hospital in central Israel, which was the address to evacuate them. The policy is to fly them to a large hospital in the center of the country, where they meet the entire family gradually and undergo tests and medical treatment for at least 4 days. The hospitals are preparing for absorption according to the coordination with the Ministry of Health and the Army. At the same time, there are 2 hospitals which are ready to get them if they're evacuated to them because of the very urgent medical condition which doesn't let evacuate them to the center of Israel. These hospitals are Soroka in Beersheba and Barzilai, my hospital, in Ashkelon. And every Saturday, we are preparing from the morning till they are examined by Israeli physician and looks that they can fly to the center of Israel. Then we close our readiness. And if you see here, they comes to hospitals. This is a rescue operation a few months ago. This is not from the deal now, but in the deal now, they are all covered and we can't see them, and we give them privacy and keep them securely till they come into the hospital. This is our hospital, and we see how we prepare a room for the families, like home. When the families come, it's very proximity to the place that we hospitalize those who are being brought to our hospital due to an emergent medical condition. So see, we prepare them a room with all the facility that they feel like home, with all the things. Here is a document that they can read about all the knowledge that they should know about how to treat the returnees, and see, and the place itself that we prepare to put them is like an intensive care, and that's we do because of if we get hostages here, they are in an urgent condition, so they're going to need an emergency room. In the hospital, the reception area is in emergency room or in a special ward, and it's prepared in advance with a lot of privacy. An event with enormous public interest, a lot of friends, a lot of families, a lot of people, and a lot of media. Therefore, it must be managed delicately, privately, and gradually. Everything is according to the will of the returnees and the families, not pressuring them. Let them set in pace, especially since the returnees are being exposed for the first time to the events of October 7. It is the first time that we tell them what happened to the families, what happened to the home. Most of them don't have homes anymore because they are in the settlement in the envelope of Gaza and was bombed, burned, and ruined by the Hamas. So we tell them very slowly with psychologists and with the first circle family. The returnees are hospitalized in sterile combined. No one enters except licensed caregivers which are chosen by the profession and family members only from the first circle. They are very emotional meetings, privacy and confidentially. Everyone else, including more distant family, friends, press, etc., are in more remote locations. Everything is done under the control of the Ministry of Health and Army and Security Forces. Medical treatment, immediate initial examination to rule out a medical condition that requires immediate intervention. Documenting everything, collecting forensic evidence, and preparing documentation for forensic medicine. Nutritional assessment. Nutrition is one of the biggest problems. And when we got them, first of all, giving them thiamine, B1 vitamins in order to try to eliminate and refeeding syndrome, which can kill them. We give them compound carbohydrates, not usual, in order to slow the absorption of carbohydrates, which can make complications of fluids, water, and vitamins and minerals, which are very necessary to the re-metabolism that they are exposed. So don't give them things, even other families that want to hug them with the food that they like or dream about. No, very slowly, very gradually, in protocols which are fit to their medical situation, which is examined and slowly, according to the condition, to the medical condition. It is not simple, but we have to do it. There is a multi-professional team which is איך אומרים מדריך? שכחתי. We train them before, and when we know who are the returnees who are coming, and it is one day that we know because of the Hamas, we run to the medical records in the sick funds, in all the things, we bring them and we learn about their diseases, because some of them are over 50, 60, 70, and have some chronic diseases, which have been have a war to this, and we have to treat them according to their diseases. And they might even have a flare-up of a heart disease or brain disease, and these are the conditions that they should be evacuated directly to our hospital if there is something which endanger their life. Not after nutritional, we have a lot of shortage of vitamins, especially vitamin D, because of staying hundreds of days in darkness, no sun, no vitamin D, no calcium, and a very big damage to the skeleton. Another thing is infectious diseases. They are just because of losing about 20 to 30 kilograms or more than that from the weight, they have a lot of disturbances, physiologic and immunological. That's why they have a lot of infectious diseases. And now we have one returnee 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago that is now hospitalized in a very serious influenza and pulmonary disease, pneumonia, and all of that because it doesn't have enough immunological power. After this, we are speaking about eye, ear, nose, and throat, and all the things, but one of the most important things is psychiatric and psychological evaluation. It's a process that are cope with mental and emotional problems, like being guilty, like don't knowing what happens to the families, kids, wives, husband. They don't know anything. They don't know whether we are fighting for them. A psychological war from the Hamas, so cruel. We've heard about a soldier that was covered by talc and sand and taking picture to send to her family like being dead, or not giving them food, or giving them food, laughing and taking back, and treating and torture them, putting them tied with iron chains and all these things. So as long as time passed, it's much, much worse dealing with psychological, and there are psychological and psychiatrics who follow them, who just evaluate what is the condition and what happens. So they are there for at least 4 days. Part of them are about 1 week, and then they'll go to a step-down place, which you call Maccabea village, where they are putting there with the families, friends, etc., and being treated by the same psychologists and the same physicians to see how we establish a good health again. Then they go home. Part of them don't have home, and they go to the community of the kibbutz they are belong to, which they are evacuated to. And there they are treated in an ambulatory way by physicians, psychologists, psychiatrics, and sick funds. And it's going to take a lot of months till we can overcome the mental and psychiatric disorders, and a lot of weeks in order to overcome the physiologic disorders. This is the things that I want to speak about. You see that there is a lot of more things, but we don't have time, and I want to give you time to ask questions. Here you see some pictures from the helicopters, which they are evacuated from Re'im to the hospitals, the reunion with the families, with an all nation sticking to the television and crying and praying for them. Also us, the older ones, it is not a shame to cry in such occasions. So thank you, and we'll continue to build a better future for Israel. This is a soldier which was treated for about 2 months after he was evacuated, almost dead, being injured from Gaza. And now I'm saying hello to him when he goes alive and healthy to start rehabilitation. Thank you for the opportunity to have you. I'll stop the sharing, and then I can see you and start questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Levy. Your presentation was both fascinating and heart-wrenching. Your leadership during the unimaginable challenges that October 7th and its aftermath have posed to Barzilai and other medical centers is incredible, and there is nothing more important than the work that you and your medical staff are doing each day. I know many here would like to hear more about the current releases and treatments, so we just want to pose a few questions if we could. You answered so many questions, but I just have one thing I'd like to start with. What examples, and you touched on this as well, what examples do your medical staff look at in preparation for treatment? Are there certain events, past wars, hostage situations, medical studies that are used to prepare staff and orchestrate different treatment options? There have obviously been comparisons made to the Holocaust survivors, as you mentioned, and other hostage situations. So how do we prepare the staff for these unimaginable situations?
There is not a lot of knowledge about starvation and refeeding. We know it professionally from the literature, but when we look after examples, as I said, in the Holocaust, we saw what happens to the hostages that were captured to Egypt and Syria in 73. and 67. We know about starvations of even the American army in Vietnam, but there's not a lot of knowledge. We have to learn all the literature, of course, and we have to learn, and we learned from the first deal that was in November or December 23, what happened to those who were coming back. And even though it was only not more than 50 days approximately, there was starting of starvation and of mental and psychiatric disorder and PTSD. And we followed them and we learned what we've seen from them. So all we have from the literature, little examples from the past starvations, knowing what happened to the returnees in the first deal, and learning from Saturday to Saturday, Saturday to Saturday, what happens and how to feed them very cautiously and gradually in order to avoid refeeding syndrome that can even end in death.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce my friend and mentor, Dr. Andrew Hutter, Israel Bond's National and International Chairman of the Board and a founding leader of our National Medical Division, to ask the next question. Please, Andy.
Thank you very much, Steve and Zev. You guys are doing a phenomenal job bringing this program, heart-wrenching. You think you hear things, but then to hear from you, Professor Levy, about what actually is happening and how you are dealing with this, I agree with you. Thank you for telling us it's okay to cry, because I'm sure there was not a dry eye in the group here. Several of the doctors that are on this Zoom have been with us on many of our missions. And as I told you, our very first mission in 2009, we visited Barzilai Hospital when it was a different type of trauma, just a few rockets coming in from Gaza, and how you were dealing with it.
Should come now. It's a new hospital, which I'm very proud of.
And we are coming back in October, and so we're going to hopefully be able to coordinate that so that we can come see the changes and talk about this. I really appreciate everything that you told us. You really mentioned a lot of things that maybe we thought of but didn't really realize. But what kept coming to my mind in listening to this was, and you may not have an exact answer, is how are you preparing to deal with all of your staff? Because I can see the psychological trauma of dealing with these people, something that you probably never had to deal with, and I'm sure you're considering it. Can you give us any insight as to how you might be looking to dealing with this in the future?
I think it's a wonderful question. And do you know why? Because I have an answer. But dealing with that seriously, there is a lot of emotional challenge to all this stuff. Huge emotional challenge, not only the young people, but also senior crew, physicians, nurses, everything. I can say to myself, I'm very experienced. I've seen a lot of things. I've treated under fire. I headed delegations of Israeli army to Rwanda, to Kosovo. I've seen a lot of death, sorrow, starvation, nothing like that. So we have a very huge wings of psychology and social work. So on the very first day, in the briefing, I've made 2 briefings every day to see what happens and what to see and what we're going to face. So in the briefings, in Sunday, the second day of the war, I ordered the social workers to deal only with the evacuated, injured people and their families, because I think that everyone who was evacuated from the battle arena is a kind of trauma reaction, anxiety, and we should know it from the first and treat him just after we overcome the injury itself, which endangers his life. But then I took the psychologist and I told them, you don't touch any injured people. Your mission is from now to treat the crew, to treat people, to go to be with them, to look at them, to speak with them, to identify those who are suffering or are in stress, to identify those who are not coming from home and we don't know why. Call them, see what happens. Maybe they are in stress. To treat families that lost their relatives, like losing son, which was fighter in an infantry troop, losing husband, which worked in one of the settlements in the envelope, losing son, which was missing from the Nova party till we found him after 4 days. So all the psychologists treated them. We know about more than 100, 200 people that they were seeking for help, treatment, and we gave them it, of course, with no fees. And I know about it. I don't want to know names, only numbers, to see what is the dimension and what are the people feeling and trying to help them. Try to help all the crew by being with them. You are not a manager in such occasion. You are a leader. And as a leader, you should be with the people all the time. See what happens and react immediately, even before it happens. We gave them donations, food, some cultural events, etc. And I think that they appreciate it. And this is one of our main targets, even in year 25. We haven't finished yet. We have to continue and treat our crew and give them a big hug. And I said that I stood there just amazed of what I've seen from this crew, the dedication, the professionality, the crying and working and crying all the day for more than 1 year. It was amazing.
Thank you, Professor Levy and Dr. Hutter. I'd like to now introduce my co-chair of Israel Bond's National.
Maybe, but this should be the last question. I'm sorry, because I'm called to the other meetings and panel that we have. Amazing about mental stress and how to treat it.
Okay, well, appreciate it. I'm just going to call upon my co-chair of Israel Bond's National Medical Division, Dr. Zev Shulkin, to ask the next question. Zev?
Thank you for your time and accommodation. Can you speak specifically to the challenges that women are facing coming out of the hostage situation? What further follow-up are we expecting for women hostages and specific to women's health issues?
I think we don't know enough yet about what happened to women. We've heard from some hostages that were come to abuse, to sexual abuse, to being very rough to them. First of all, we've seen from those who were dead or survived after the Nova, what happened to them. And some of them were wrapped, and we've seen some cadavers after have been wrapped. And of course, United Nations doesn't recognize it. We have imagination. It hadn't happened, but it happened, and we've seen it on cadavers that were brought and injured that we spoke about. Then about those who were there in Gaza, we know that some of them have been sexually abused. Some of them even have been asked to marry them and bring children to them because Israel doesn't want them. Israel doesn't going to save them. So stay here in Gaza. Let's be married and make for us children. And we've heard these testimonies from those who came and the Outlook soldiers that have been from Nahal Oz. were captured in Nahal Oz, one of the army camps that have been conquered, and they were taken to Gaza. Most of them were killed, and 5 of them have been caught to Gaza, and has been brought in the second Saturday in this deal. Of course, there is a lot of problems with women regarding their periods, regarding all their hormonal cycles, and we know it, and we are now treating it in order to bring them back to a normal life, normal female circles and hormonal function. And I'm not speaking about the mental and psychiatric disorders, although they look very well at the first days. We know that inside we're gonna have to dig and find all the frustration and problems and start to treat it. Thank you. It was a great honor to be with you, and I'm sorry I have to go because I could speak for 1 week and telling you a lot of things, but you're gonna be bored, so I won't do it. And thank you, and let's pray for peace and good time for Israel. We all, the Jews, you, and Israel, share the same destiny and deserve little peace of mind in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Shulkin, for the question, and Professor Levy for your insightful remarks. That concludes our program today. Thank you to Professor Chezy Levy and all of your staff at Barzilai for the critical work you're doing and for taking the time to speak with us. I'd also like to extend gratitude to everyone who participated and joined us today. Your ongoing support for Israel Bonds is so important and truly does make a difference to the Jewish state. Don't forget to continue to support Bonds, and you can do so through our website, israelbonds.com. I'd also like to share the exciting news that we at Israel Bonds will be organizing a 2025 medical delegation to Israel. This is a unique opportunity to travel to Israel as a small group, just one bus with other medical professionals, and participate in a specialized experience, visiting medical sites, meeting top doctors and IDF units who are making a difference in this war, learning of Israel's newest innovations in medical technology, and much more. Please mark your calendars. The trip will take place October 26th to 30th, 2025. Get in touch with Israel Bonds professional Ethan Belling for more information. To conclude, we must keep the Israeli hostages that remain in captivity in our hearts, in our prayers, and to continue speaking out on behalf of them. They are enduring unimaginable conditions, and we cannot rest until every single living hostage is safely home. We pray for their strength, for their families' resilience, and for the day when they are all home and reunited with their loved ones. And those whose lives have been brutally taken all need to be laid to rest in peace in their beloved homeland. Thank you, and have a great rest of your Sunday.